morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's Scots in Us. And we're joined today by Chris Snow, who is the head of artist services at the Edinburgh Fringe, which is very busy right now as they're about to, in the coming weeks, announce all their shows that are coming. So he's the man behind it all. So Chris, I know you can't tell us everything, but can we begin by getting an insight into what we can expect from the Fringe 2023?
Of course, Camilla, thank you so much for having me. It is lovely to be here. I'm coming to you from Edinburgh, from a little sort of underground bunker where we're rapidly putting together the programme for this year. So registration for artists who wanted to be in our printed brochure closed a few days ago. And the team, as I speak, around the corner, typesetting it and getting ready to build the brochure for this year's Fringe. So this is the 76th year of the Fringe, and I can't tell you all that much about the shows that are in that programme yet, but there are about 1,000 already on sale, and plenty more to come. It's properly exciting, cutting-edge theatre, music, cabaret, we've got musicals, children's shows, spoken word, and of course comedy as well. And there is all sorts on sale now, and a huge amount more to come when that full programme launches on the 8th of June. So it is a very, very exciting time.
It's such an amazing platform for so many artists and so many shows, because it's a jumping off point, isn't it, for so many. You have a programme which comes from Edinburgh back to New York, for instance. Can you speak a little bit about the international companies that will be coming over, and also some of the shows that have had successes out of this?
Yes, of course. Well, I mean, the international sort of reach of Edinburgh Fringe is absolutely massive, and it's really exciting year on year. One of the things that my team looks after is all of the international producers, promoters, agents who come over from all over the world to spot and see Fringe work. And of course, we've got artists who come to see us from all over the world, and we've got the industry and the audiences as well. And this year there were two potentially more very, very successful Fringe shows that have since transferred to 59 East 59 in New York. It's a show called Breathless on at the moment, which won a Fringe First Award with us in Edinburgh. A show called Cassie and the Lights, which opens as well at 59 East 59 shortly. What's really exciting for us at the Fringe Society is to see work that's spotted here in Edinburgh and then taken on all over the world, and particularly to the US. I think last year we had nearly 300 US shows that came over. You're the second largest kind of presentation of work here, just after the UK.
But you also last year had an amazing amount of companies from around the world there. I was fortunate enough to see the Ukrainian ballet on 2 occasions. So are there some things that are in the works without telling us too much?
There's all sorts that's in the works. I think last year we had 63 countries presented work at Fringe. It really is truly an international arts festival. And there is all sorts coming this year that hopefully we'll be able to talk about in future episodes as we get down the line. I'd love to come back and tell you all about them, Camilla.
So the Edinburgh Fringe came about because there was the international curated Fringe. And there were all these artists who were going, well, why can't we be a part of that? So how is that all managed? How does this happen?
That's a great question. So you're right, in 1947, there was the first international festival, and there were 8 performing arts companies, theatre companies, who wanted to take part in the festival, and the international festival felt that it didn't fit within their programme. So instead of these 8 artists just going home, they found venues around the city and did Fringe anyway. And so Fringe started in 1947 with these 8 companies just doing it because they demanded a space and a stage for their voices to be heard and their stories to be told. It was very much always an act of defiance and protest, the Fringe being this sort of grassroots, artists-led rebellion, which is the thing that attracts me to working here. So, you know, fast forward to where we are now, the Fringe is massive, is significantly bigger than the International Festival, and it still has that defiant, rebellious spirit. The Fringe is totally open access, which means any show from anywhere in the world that can find a venue in Edinburgh to host them can be part of the festival. I don't sit here and choose what can or can't be in our programme. There's nobody that curates or programmes the festival. It is all about an artist coming to us, meeting a venue, and then doing something magic. And
I was going to say, but it's not simple.
it is far from simple. It is far from simple. And it's very difficult for artists at the moment, particularly around how expensive everything's become. Over in the UK, we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Accommodation in Edinburgh is becoming more and more expensive. And there's legislation that kind of limits the amount of available accommodation for artists, which is becoming more of a concern. It is really hard and expensive for artists to take part. And what we've got to remember is all of the work here is self-funded. So there isn't this sort of big pot of public money that artists are pulling against. They're risking everything to come and present their work in the hope that it is then that launch pad that you were talking about earlier, Camilla, to then take them on to more and greater things and to get their work seen and to meet audiences and to meet each other. It's this sort of huge melting pot of ideas and creativity, but the risk of all of it financially sits with the artists. And I suppose our job as a society is to try and offer as much support and guidance to artists as we can, to try and give them sort of tips and tricks to make the most of being at the festival, to try and warn them of the challenges that there can be, particularly financially, to support venues, to support industry coming over. We're sort of here to hold and facilitate and look after and support the festival. We don't sort of do it, which is a really interesting mix. So yeah, I'm behind the scenes. I know what's in the programme, but I didn't choose any of it, although I'm certainly going to be buying tickets to quite a lot of it this summer.
Well, that's the thing. There are shows on from dawn to dusk and into the night.
Significantly past dusk,
into the night. And venues pack all sizes of rooms. Places where they might do readings at other times or be a green room becomes that 25 place little theatre for the Fringe. It's wonderful, but it does need you to do some work beforehand to maximize it, to understand that you're going to have to walk. You know, that the city it's a gridlock central in a way during the Fringe, isn't it?
It certainly is, yes. There are about 300 venues that pop up during the festival, and they could be everything normally from normal theatres and arts centres that operate year-round to pubs, to restaurants, to function rooms, university spaces, all these buildings hidden around the city that aren't normally theatre venues. At the end of July, venue operators come in and build their venues within them, and suddenly everywhere you look is a theatre or a comedy venue. So yeah, and the city does really fill up. It is difficult to get around, but what you've really got to make sure you don't do is book a show that finishes 5 minutes over here before one that starts an hour's run over to the other side. Much of the fun of Edinburgh for me as an audience member has always been to get my programme and to circle the shows I want to see, and then to get them in a spreadsheet, work out what your start and end times are, how long is it going to take you to run between one venue to the other. I used to compete with myself really to see how many shows I could see in a day, because they're all about an hour long. Every show is about $14 or so a ticket. It can change, but about $14 a ticket. And really, it's up to you how much you want to pack in, whether you want to leave time to have lunch. I often didn't. I had half a sandwich in between shows as running across the city to the next one. It can be quite a marathon of an experience if you want it to be like that. There are so many different ways to experience it.
I think Edinburgh has absolutely managed to work out how to be the host to this festival. I mean, it's got challenges as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, but the fact that George Street now is made a walking area with all those restaurants, all those ticket facilities, all these different things going on is fantastic. I mean, the city does adapt to having the Fringe there. It doesn't say you've got to fit in with us. You all work together. You know, we talk about all the artistic side of things, but there's also this huge challenge that you must be facing, because there's no magic wand that suddenly says the pandemic's all gone and over. Last year was a year of transition, but there are huge challenges for the artists, for the venues, etc. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes, of course. I think last year did really feel like our first year of recovery coming out of the pandemic, and it'll be a slow process to get us back to kind of the healthy festival that we were perhaps in some ways before. For artists coming up, one of the big challenges is affordability. It's a really expensive city to stay in. It's expensive to take part in the festival, and it's also a very tiring and challenging and draining experience for some. And really what my team's here to do is to provide as much support and guidance as possible through the festival in the lead up to it, and also while artists are here in August. So we run an in-person participants hub that opens in August and is open 7 days a week for artists to come in and speak to us, talk about their challenges. We'll provide mental health and well-being support to them. There are one-to-one meetings, there are workshops, events, masterclasses, all in this space. And really, we're here to try to help enable artists who face barriers to participation, enabling them to take part. Something that we launched earlier this year was called the Keep It Fringe Fund, which gave a huge amount of money out to artists. We had £100,000. We gave 50 awards of £2,000 each to artists who are coming to Fringe this year to help them with some of the difficult costs. And we really need support to be able to fund those sorts of initiatives, to really give money to the artists who are not publicly funded, who are taking all the personal risk of taking part in the festival. And some of my colleagues have been out in the US for Tartan Week and have had a wonderful time. And part of that was to launch a foundation that we've just set up through Chapel in York, where our American friends can also now donate to the Fringe Society and benefit from tax relief through that, which is so exciting for us. So much American work comes over, the second largest presentation of work at Fringe after the UK, and we really want to be able to enable international companies and UK companies to take part in this amazing festival. So if anybody is able to give us anything to help us in this journey, that's so important, to get cash to the artists, to keep this festival vibrant and diverse and interesting. You can do that on our website at edfringe.com and just click on that support us button at the top. We'd really, really appreciate any support to help the future artists, the future Six the Musical, the future Fleabag, to really make it and to experience this festival.
And it is so important for people to understand how these artists take it all on. They put their play together, whatever the musical is, and they decide to find a venue, and then it's on them. And it is an overwhelming challenge. It's rather like when people come out for Tartan Week, they need to learn to navigate it. And you are offering them such great navigation. And I'm so glad if we can help in any way to promote and amplify your message. And we will put all those details out and up and everything else. We helped a little bit last year when you started to launch this effort, as it was very apparent that it was needed.
And it's an amazing friendship that we've got with the US, that so much work has ended up going back, that so many kind of huge Broadway and US stars have started their careers at the Fringe. David Schwimmer, Robin Williams, Jennifer Coolidge, Mike Myers, all ex-Fringe performers. Six, the musical, which is huge on Broadway at the moment, started in a small venue in Edinburgh. In fact, I saw it in a venue in Edinburgh years ago in its sort of first incarnation. You can come and there's a good chance that you're going to see something that is the future Six, that is the future Fleabag. You know, it's exciting to be part of this grassroots new work, and it's I would highly recommend a visit.
But also there are these established artists that come back because they love the Fringe so much, and so they're back doing their comedy show, doing their new show, trying it out, and so the quality of work is fabulous. It really is. And I can't stress enough to anybody listening that you should have it absolutely circled to be joining everybody in Edinburgh in August from the 2nd to the 28th. And if not this year, definitely putting it in your plans for next year, but starting to understand it this year, because it's a hugely intensely packed time when you come over.
It absolutely is. I couldn't agree more. And I would say when you're choosing work to see, try not to just book those things that you know you're going to enjoy or the things that you can see at home. Try and pick some wacky, weird looking performance that jumps out to you, that maybe has a theme you're interested in. Try and see things at a real variety of venues. Don't just stick to the sort of central belt. Go to some free fringe work. There's hundreds of shows that don't cost you anything to get into, and there's no risk. You go in, performer's not paying to be there. It's this brilliant exchange of a free performance that if you love it, some of the best things I've ever seen have been at free fringe venues. Put some money in their bucket at the end. The artist keeps 100% of it. There are so many different models. Try not to just see the comedy that you could see at home. See some weird theatre. See some students that have come over doing a strange musical in a cupboard. Come and see all sorts of crazy work and really take part and immerse yourself in the festival.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're going to look forward to catching up with you in a few weeks' time again, and onward to Fringe 2023.
Absolutely. Thank you, Camilla, for having me.
Thank you. As we continue our delve into all things Edinburgh Fringe, I'm joined now by a very dear friend of ours, Claire Mackenzie, who is part of the writing coupling of Noisemaker with Scott Gilmore. And they have a new production that will be going to the Fringe this year, Scots. But we're going to begin, Claire, by if you could give us your take on what the Fringe has meant to Noisemaker, because you've had several works on there over the past few years.
Yes, we have. It's a very special relationship we have with the Fringe. We've started about, I would think it's 5 or 6 of our productions began at the Fringe and had their first, tryout in front of an audience. And what makes the Fringe so brilliant is that audience is wide and varied, and you get such a great response, and you learn so much about the piece and how it's like received by your audience, at its first outing, that I can't think of a better place to start working on a show than the Edinburgh Fringe. And from there, we have taken all of those productions on to further productions internationally, as well as still in Scotland and tours. So it really is the starting place for so many productions nowadays.
But it is a huge commitment and responsibility on behalf of you and Scott and then the cast to find a venue, raise all the money. It is a tremendous undertaking, and I don't know if everybody understands that.
Yes, I mean, you almost have to become producers as well as writers and performers, I think. And that's what makes it so special. On one hand is that you kind of get thrown into the fire of, finding a venue, trying to raise money, things that you would never normally do. And I think you come out learning a lot from that. And then also there are different ways of approaching the Fringe. You can partner with them. We've partnered quite a number of times with the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, National Theatre of Scotland. And if you partner with like a different producer, then there are ways of easing that burden. But a lot of artists do go out and do it themselves and raise the money and really become their own producers.
So you're going to bring Scots to the Edinburgh Fringe this year. How many weeks will it be on?
It's going to be on the second 2 weeks of the festival. And it's going to be on at Gilly Dhu, which is a wonderful venue at the bottom of Princes Street, a beautiful converted church. You may know it. And it's going to be on a lunchtime. So you get a play, a pie and a pint when you turn up for the show. So we're really excited. I think it starts on the 14th of August.
What a clever idea to do it at lunchtime, because there's so much going on. And as we keep saying to people, you need to plan your day. So yes, this would be your lunchtime experience.
Exactly. And you need to eat, because there's so many shows, you're usually hopping around from one to the other, and eating sometimes can be forgotten. So we were really quite keen to make it at lunchtime. It's a good start to your day, we think, a little show and you get to have a pie and a drink as well, get you started.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant. So we were very fortunate that you were a part of the ASF Tartan Week experience this year. And let's take a moment as you join us in Bryant Park with the cast from Scots.
Oh, give me a problem, I'll solve it. Give me a future, I'll see it. Give me a reason not to change the world. Give me a page and I'll quill it. Give me a stage and I'll fill it. Give me a reason not to change the world. I'm William Cullen, and here's my cinch. I keep it cool, so I invented the fridge. James Chalmers gonna leave you down, cause you've been licking my postage stamp. Who's on the phone? It's A.G. Bell, calling to say I built the graphophone as well. What? Pneumatic tires, John Boy, don't go. Oh! Alan McMasters will make your toasters pop. You know you want me to let my license loose.
It's a very poignant piece. I mean, it's very glib and fun with sort of some strange humor to it. But it really has some very emotive moments in it. And how did it develop? How did Scots come to be?
Well, we were challenged. We were commissioned by Jemima Levick at Play Pint and Pint in Glasgow, and she was really keen for a show that kind of spanned all of Scottish history and look at its past, its present, and maybe question its future, but all in 50 minutes. So we knew we had to kind of rattle through it, and we really wanted to find a way that was really accessible, and there's a lot of comedy in the show, but there is quite a journey as you go on, and you find out some more stories that maybe don't get told as often. We feature a character, Mary Somerville, who is a real wonderful inventor and pioneer of her time, and I don't think everyone knows her story, and so we were really keen to highlight some of these very famous Scottish people and their stories. And I think so as the show goes on, it does journey into looking at those deeper stories, and then we start to question the future and what makes a country great for everyone. Why are we proud of Scotland, and what do we need to keep working on to keep being proud of it?
Are you going to keep performing? Because you have the most wonderful voice, both of you do, and and I love it when you two also perform as a duo. Are you going to keep doing that?
Yeah, we think so. I mean, actually, we never used to do that at all when we were in Scotland. It feels like when we're in America, when we're working, and we came over for Tartan Week, I think people over here particularly like hearing the writers sing their material, and we're kind of jumping in and getting stuck in and doing that. So we won't be stopping that for sure. We also do obviously love working with actors and handing over our songs for them to interpret. That's a great part of the job, but I think there's a balance of both to be had, and if people ask us to sing, we will try our best to turn up and do it.
Well, you've got a lot going on. So you have Scots that's underway. It's been in previews in Glasgow. Then you came to New York and joined us for our supper club, which just was a fabulous evening. But you also have some other productions in development that are quite far along.
We've got quite a few that are kind of in development. So there's a period before a musical kind of goes in front of its audience that you kind of do lots of readings and workshops and trying it out. And there are a few of them that are ticking away and moving along nicely. So there's one called Cayley that's set at a Scottish Cayley, and it turns into a story, but obviously the audience need to come and dance as well. That's part of the deal. And we're also working on a new commission of the novella The Snow Goose by Paul Gallagher, and that's with Goodspeed Musicals up in Connecticut. So that's at the writing stage. So all of these projects are at different stages. Some are just me and Scott on our own in a room trying to write stuff down on a blank page, and some are us starting to work with actors, but they're all kind of moving along, and we're excited, and they're all very different, so that keeps each day is interesting.
Well, we are so excited and proud to be working closely with you and have been enjoying being on your journey and to continuing to do so, and to seeing you in Edinburgh in August as we watch Scots. So let's take another moment to close this segment with a piece from Scots.
Let's celebrate some of the wonderful women that make up our history. Lady Agnes Campbell, 16th century noblewoman who fought on the battlefield, leading an army of angry Scots against the English. And while you were showing the world, I was showing my place. Isabella Macduff crowned Robert the Bruce so he could become King of Scotland, paid for it with her life. How to be ladylike. Frances Wright, author and social reformer who campaigned for the abolition of slavery in America. How to carve our words. Mary Chisholm, Scottish nurse who became the first woman to join the front line in Belgium during World War I. How to not need space. Jessie Soga, contralto vocalist and music teacher, known as the only black suffragist in Scotland. But our first discovery was that we're just like you. Elsie Ingalls, doctor, surgeon, suffragist, founded Scotland's women's hospitals, saving the lives of thousands during the First World War. We see the same world of wonder all around us too. Wilhelmina Fleming, one of my girls, astronomer who discovered the Horsehead Nebula and was credited as the first person to identify white dwarf stars. We can't confine ourselves to life, watching from the stars. Maggie Keswick-Jenks, writer and artist who used her own experience of having cancer to create a new kind of cancer care. Maggie. Not while we possess ability to break down walls. Mary Barber, political activist and campaigner for workers' rights and for women's rights. Mary's army led the rent strikes in Glasgow, triggering the first Rent Control Act in Europe. She also looked fierce in a bonnet.